Hi, and welcome back to the show. Well, very shortly, I'm going to be joined with Keith English from Keith English and Associates, real estate agents. And yeah, all of us, we're either selling houses, buying houses, looking at investment properties. But on this week's show, we're going to be looking at expectations and how a good agent can meet them. So don't go anywhere. Hi, and welcome back to the show, and I'm joined with Keith English. How are you, Keith?
I'm excellent today. How's yourself?
I'm great. Pretty tough industry you're in, Keith, because you've got, and we were talking about real estate and sellers' expectations, I suppose, to start off with. And of course, we've all got expectations. You know, I've got my property, and mine's the best in the street, by the way, Keith.
Obviously.
And then we've got market forces, but they shouldn't affect my property.
No, well, the classic one is everyone, the cliche is everyone wants the highest possible price and the quickest possible sale.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, but sometimes we need to delve a little bit deeper in there and see what sellers' expectations are.
What are some of the does it start with price, or when they come to an agent, what are their expectations? Let's start with agent. That's a little bit off the beat, but I know a lot of people go, oh, I went with that person because of, are there certain expectations you find clients have?
Yeah, and everyone has their own perception of real estate. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not so good. Yeah. So it's always good to go with a real estate agent that has a trusted relationship with you that you've had before, or someone that you know that they can be recommended to. Because there are a lot of different real estate agents out there, and they all have something different to offer as well.
It was interesting, I heard you give a talk, because Keith gives talks at different places you can expect, and in the talk you were saying that when you're choosing an agent, you've got to look at the agent and go, if I was a buyer, would I like dealing with this agent? Yeah,
especially more so in this type of market that we're currently in. Buyers have so much more choice. And it's quite easy for a real estate agent to alienate a buyer. So if you're a seller and you want a hardcore, tough as nails real estate agent, then sometimes that they can actually alienate buyers as well. So always keep in mind on what type of transaction you want to have, because if you can't relate to your real estate agent, then chances are your buyers can't relate and trust the real estate agent as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And talking about sellers' expectation, when they come to like dealing with the buyers, is there a trend now for more, look, I don't want to have just all home opens because that's when the neighbours all come through. I prefer to just have done by appointment only, or is it a bit of a mixture? How do you find that?
It can be a mixture, and I think anyone who operates solely by home opens, in this day and age, people work on weekends and they're busy, and I mean, my son plays cricket on the weekends, so that ties up
you were up on the weekend playing cricket, or your son?
My son was playing cricket. So in today's lifestyle, I think you need to be flexible. So I like to have a combination of set home opens and by appointments as well. So make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to view the properties.
Yeah. When you come to sellers, their expectations of you, are you finding there's more pressure put on people like yourself to go, look, I want the best possible price? Or are people going a little bit more savvy and saying, you know what, Keith, I need to get out of this in X amount of time. Your job is to just get me out of here.
Well, every seller is different.
Right.
So I think my job is to listen to what the client needs. So, and sometimes their expectations are that it has to be sold as quickly as possible.
You've had one of them, haven't you?
Yeah, I had.
Oh, you've probably had several of them.
Yeah, I've had a few. The worst, or the most interesting one was, I get a phone call at 1 o'clock saying I need an offer on the table by the end of today. Oh, goodness. That's not only an offer, but it has to be an unconditional offer. Oh. Okay, with a non-refundable cash deposit. Okay, wow. So and we delivered. So, I told him, the price isn't going to be pretty. And he said, it doesn't matter about the price, I just need that done today. So, and that's about, their expectations were urgency. It was absolutely urgent that they needed to do this.
Are you able to fulfill the seller's expectations, like in something like that, because of your experience? I mean, you're one of the few agents that I know of, you're probably one of the only agents that worked in the vast amount of suburbs, because we're in Western Australia, so we've got a lot of suburbs. And most agents will confine themselves to one or two.
Yeah, my suburb count is over 110 at the moment, so that's quite unusual.
Yeah.
But also, I think not only that, but my personal background was real estate. I've bought and sold a lot of properties myself, and they can range from units to small subdivisions to family homes to larger subdivision properties. So my background is in experience in what type of property we're selling as well, which I think that's also something that you need to look at when you're a seller.
And I think that's important from a sales perspective, like me, if I was selling. The fact, I mean, that's how you got into real estate, because you're doing so much for yourself and went, I can't find somebody decent enough to carry this out.
And it's turning your hobby into your career.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I did. I was buying and selling property as a hobby. And suddenly found myself, I was making much more money out of my hobby than I was out of my day job, so made that change.
Yeah, because you were in sports, weren't you?
Yeah, I used to run health and fitness facilities, so I'd run chains of clubs and all service-based.
I was going to say, very much, you've come from one people-based industry into another, very heavily focused on the actual person.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think real estate is about people. They think it's about houses, but it's not. It's about people. So we are in a service industry, and it is about the people behind the property. Behind every property there is a seller and a buyer, and they have their own wants and needs and expectations. So,
Now, obviously the $1 million question, and some cases $1 million house, or multi-million-dollar house in some cases with some of the properties you've sold. How do you handle the sellers that say, look, I valued my property. I'm not thinking of me, obviously. I valued and it's worth this, and you're there going, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's all about research, and it's about education as well. So it's about listening to what the expectations of the seller is, and it is their property. So at the end of the day, I'm paid and I'm a servant to sell their property. So I'm not a dictator.
Yeah.
So my job would then be to say, okay, here is what the evidence says, and then I would make the decision of, okay, let's put the property on at your price and let's look at the reaction that happens.
Yes.
Or in some cases, I can say, well, I won't take that on because we'll be wasting everyone's time. Depending on the seller. So you can choose who my client is as well. Sometimes you don't take on clients if they're being unreasonable. And
I will say there's a flip side to that, because you've taken on properties where agents have said you won't get above, and I'm thinking of one now, I think it was 1.1 or 1.2, and you end up walking away with...
I think off-air conversations, it was about one in Mount Lawley. That was, the local agent, and everyone was saying 2.1.
2.1,
and we
sorry.
sold that for 2.7.
Yeah. Well, that's a massive difference. So,
absolutely.
So it is on both sides. So by having a good agent, you're not necessarily always going in, so actually you're overpriced. Quite often you go in and say, actually, you're underpriced.
Well, it's one of the benefits. I'm called, in most cases, an out-of-area agent. I'm not a local agent in most properties that I sell.
Right.
And I go into a suburb with no preconceived expectations. So I have one property and I can research the market on statistics without the emotion. Some local agents, and not all of them, but some get tied into price, and in a downward cycling market, they're not prepared to come to market, and they end up with property sitting on the market for a long period of time. And the flip can happen as well. They get a predetermined set fixed price in their mind, and they're not prepared to extend past that. So that's where I think I'm quite good at.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more with Keith English and sales expectations. But I want to talk a little bit about the agent's actual responsibility to the seller, because most times you do work for sellers. I know you work for buyers as well, but we'll just touch on your actual legal responsibilities to those sellers?
Yeah, that's tied in with our code of conduct. So I have a legal obligation to act in the best interest of my client at all times, unless it's illegal or inappropriate for me to do so. Okay.
We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.